This series presents information based in part on theory and conjecture. The producer's purpose is to suggest some possible explanations, but not necessarily the only ones, to the mysteries we will examine.
Welcome to Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's, the investigative journalism program, or IJP, where I ask the question, whatever happened to the pizza at McDonald's? I'm your host, Brian Thompson. Today, Part 5 of our investigatory series, Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's presents In Search of the Chamber of Secrets. Part 5. Like a quite large pizza pie. To recap the investigation so far, I discovered a connection between the McDonald's Corporation and the science fiction film Mac and Me, which concerns an extraterrestrial befriending a human boy at the same time McDonald's was introducing its pizza program. While researching the historical connections between humans and extraterrestrials, I was directed by the United States Library of Congress to read a book entitled Aliens in Ancient Egypt by a scholar/disc jockey named Xavier Hayes. Mr. Hayes's work led me to the possibility that the ancient Egyptians encountered extraterrestrials, just like the titular me encountered the titular Mac in the film Mac and Me, which, as previously mentioned, was financed by the McDonald's Corporation contemporaneously with their nationwide rollout of the Italian delicacy known as pizza. When I sought more information about these connections on the internet video repository YouTube.com, I found several mentions of a chamber filled with secrets hidden beneath the paws of the Great Sphinx in Egypt. I most likely need not mention that the true reason why McDonald's stopped serving pizza in the mid to late 1990s is, in fact, a secret. But when I attempted to travel to Egypt with a backhoe in order to dig up said chamber and expose its possibly pizza-related secrets, I was thwarted by the powers that be, who insisted that I cannot check a backhoe as luggage on a commercial flight. Since then, I also discovered that the Egyptian government requires multiple permits be granted to anyone wishing to conduct an archaeological excavation. In other words, their attitude toward the Chamber of Secrets mirrors the attitude of my fictional colleague, the detective Ace Ventura, toward a bathroom from which he once exited. Please refrain from going in there. Still, I remained undaunted, as I resolved to telephone the appropriate Egyptian authorities and plead my case until I was metaphorically blue in the literal face. However, I became daunted when I learned my cellular telephone plan was low on necessary minutes. With nearly all the threads of this investigation frazzled, I returned to my primary source, the book Aliens in Ancient Egypt, as I had only read about a third of it. I stayed up most of the night, reading 2.5 more chapters until my body gave out and fell asleep at 11:36 p.m. Luckily, this was just enough time to uncover a new and startling discovery. Like most interesting books, Aliens in Ancient Egypt contains many pictures. One of these depicts an ancient carving of an Egyptian goddess named Hathor. She is depicted as most Egyptian deities, very skinny indeed. But an unusual image accompanies her portrait. According to untrustworthy sources such as mainstream Egyptologists, this circular object is meant to represent the sun. If you still have use of your vision, there is a good chance you have never looked directly at the sun, and thus are unaware of its shape. Like most investigative journalists, however, I maintain an extensive collection of disguise materials, which includes several pairs of very darkly tinted sunglasses. Risking my health, I donned a pair of these glasses and quickly glanced at the sun. I can confirm it is indeed round. But there are many other things in our world, and out of it, that are round. These include flying saucers, which Mr. Hayes believes is what this image is meant to depict. Such a conclusion seems more than possible if the Egyptians were visited by extraterrestrials, which I believe is most likely a fact, since, as previously stated, Egyptian deities are depicted as quite skinny, and so are the aliens in the film Mac and Me. However, just because Xavier Hayes is an expert in the field of Egyptian/alien relations, it does not follow that he is an expert in my field, that is, mysteries involving pizza. McDonald's pizza, to be precise, which photographic evidence and my own first-hand experience has taught me was, in fact, round. Upon closer examination, this image carved by the ancient Egyptians very much resembled a deluxe, family-sized pizza from McDonald's circa the early 1990s. But photographs can be doctored, as I have proven time and again when defending myself against trespassing charges. To be sure that the ancient Egyptians carved an image of McDonald's pizza, I would have to examine this artifact myself. Thankfully, it is stored in the permanent collection at the Louvre Museum in Paris, France, Europe. Using my remaining telephone minutes, I booked a flight. When I arrived in Paris, I ran as fast as I could to the Louvre Museum. This turned out to be a mistake, as I was consulting a map at the same time. But the bard was right. Fortune will do you a favor if you are bold. And the long bread vendor with whom I collided pointed me in the direction of Egyptian artifacts displayed throughout the city. Though I did not finish the long bread, as it was too long, I did follow the direction of this vendor's pointing, and came upon a stone Sphinx standing on a street corner. You may view images of this and other points of interest on my journey on our Instagram page at instagram.com/pizza@mcd's. But be advised that I was forced to censor the image of the Sphinx, as its attitude toward above-the-waist attire can only be described as European. Be that as it may, I learned from a tour guide whose group I joined that the French military leader Napoleon once visited Egypt and returned with several pilfered artifacts. Not just the Sphinx, but also a massive stone obelisk, which is a kind of Washington monument Parisians enjoy driving circles around. What's more, legend has it that Napoleon used the original Great Sphinx for target practice, shooting off its nose in the process. But this cannot be confirmed, and I do not wish to sully the reputation of this man by slandering him as a vandal. Regardless, I knew I was on the right track, and when I arrived at the Louvre, I knew even more forcefully that this track was indeed the opposite of left, that is, right. For the museum's main entrance is contained within a glass structure known as a pyramid, exactly the same shape as the stone buildings in Egypt that strain at the muscly hug of coincidence by also being called pyramids. I fought off the urge to be stunned into stillness and endeavored to enter the museum.
Here I am at the famous Louvre Museum on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon, ready to go inside and see if their permanent collection can offer any insight as to whether the ancient Egyptians had knowledge of pizza. Just check the instructions for how to gain access. Bienvenue, welcome. L'Anici est ferme or mardi. The museum is closed on Tuesdays. That is a shame.
In the United States, which is the country from which I hail, museums are often closed on Mondays. But I did not account for the difference in time zones, which explains why the Louvre is closed on Tuesdays. As my return flight home left the same night, I could not linger long enough to wait for the museum to open. In a way, the Louvre itself became a metaphorical chamber of secrets, buried beneath its glass pyramid, awaiting the light of discovery to snake through its maze of chambers at some unknown time in the distant future. Probably a non-holiday Thursday or Saturday or the like. In the words of songstress Alanis Morissette, irony is not dead. I admit my spirits were dampened, but a wise woman once gave me some advice for times like this. In an act of selfishness, I will avoid using her full name in order not to adversely affect her advice-giving through the pressures of massive popularity. So I will simply call her Miss Winfrey, and I will say that she recommends that in times of great despair, it helps to create a list of things for which one is thankful. I call it a gratitudinal itemization. And so I sat outside that glass pyramid, staring at countless street vendors attempting to sell plastic toys of some hideous metal tower, and I ran through the things for which I am grateful. For one, I am grateful I stumbled upon this possible connection between McDonald's pizza and ancient Egyptian aliens. I may never know all the answers regarding this issue, but, on the bright side, it is possible these answers are unrelated to my primary question of why McDonald's stopped serving pizza in the mid to late 1990s, not to mention the fact that these answers could also simply be boring. For another, I am grateful that my telephone plan refreshes with a new batch of minutes in just 4 days, at which point I will be able to resume my primary quest in earnest. And for a third, I am grateful that my soul is saved by the blood of Jesus Ben David, son of history's greatest couple, God and Mary Ben David. As it happens, the people of Paris have built quite an elaborate house for Mr. Ben David and his family. It is called Notre-Dame. Since it too was closed, I could not go inside. But I noticed an elderly woman standing at the house's closed doors, offering a prayer to the statue of Mr. Ben David carved into the building's facade. I joined her there to offer my own words of thanks.
Thank you, Jesus. Everything you've done for my investigation, and for everything that you continue to do, and for one day leading the way to the truth about why McDonald's stopped serving pizza. Thank you in advance.
And then I headed home to the United States. But first, I made a quick stop at the McDonald's in Charles de Gaulle Airport. For while this is the end of my search for the Chamber of Secrets, it is not the end of my search for the answer to the greatest secret of all. Hello. Do you serve pizza at this McDonald's?
Pizza, no.
Have you ever served pizza here?
Pizza, no.
No? Okay. Thank you. Today's episode of Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's is brought to you by Long Bread. I did not finish mine, but only because it was too long. Long bread. It is very long, but perhaps you like it that way. Thank you for listening to Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's, a proud part of the Pizza at McDonald's network. Do you know what happened to Pizza at McDonald's? Do you remember it? Please send all correspondence to pizza@mcdonalds@gmail.com. Visit our attractive website at www.pizzaatmcdonalds.com. There you may find a link to our live journal page. You will also find links to our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages, as well as to our Teespring store, where you may purchase quality Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's merchandise. To provide financial support, visit patreon.com/pizzaatmcds, or to make a one-time donation, use our PayPal email address, pizzaatmcdonalds@gmail.com. I'm Brian Thompson.